Now, I was talking about big things. Steve Chandler is a property development expert who thinks that, let's see what he's got to say. Steve, good morning.
Morning, Steve.
Now, this is an interesting perspective because you and I usually talk about building and how the building industry has changed and property development's changed over the years, but you think that there might be a role for property developers to save some of these big things, like the big pineapple and the big banana and the like?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we look at, it's the fact that you're in a farmer's market right now is when you look at all the big pineapples and the big bananas, etc., they're all based around an industry. They were founded as part of a plantation, and it was a way of getting people to, come to their facility to, buy their produce, and then it became a regional attraction and all that sort of stuff. But now that you've got all these, the new freeways going through that don't go around all these towns, all these places are actually, disappearing. And they're actually losing so much business because of it, and there goes their financial viability. And for a lot of these places, they're struggling. Like food producers really struggle. So from that perspective, I'm looking at it, and the big bad developer may actually be the right thing to help some of these people by taking some of their land and turning it into income producing assets. Now, that may be through some sort of rezoning to get a different use, that helps the community, maybe a business centre or something of that nature, or even land subdivision for housing. We desperately need housing.
So you've obviously driven past a particular big thing for this idea to pop into your head. Tell us about the genesis of this concept.
Oh, look, 25 years ago, I worked for a company that did a project up in Coffs Harbour. And Coffs Harbour has the big banana. And, you look at that, and there's been a little bit in the media recently about, these big things where no one's maintaining them. They cost too much money after you put them up. And, we look at all the, we've heard about, all the new freeways, going past all these towns that used to get the passing trade. And suddenly, you start thinking about, well, where's the opportunity for a developer? That's my business, is development. So we're looking at these opportunities, and you see these, big things, and you go, look, if they're not maintaining it, it means they're not making money. And that's the first thing. You see one of these big things, and if someone's not making money, they're not going to maintain something, and instantly there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, I like the sound of that because, I started my broadcasting career in Coffs Harbour, so I'm very familiar with the area around the big banana. And I was just thinking locally here, we've got the big merino in Goulburn, and I saw somebody posted a video on social media last week of how they clean it. Now, it's obviously probably different to some of these others because it is in the middle of a built-up area in Goulburn, but you're right. When we talk about the big pineapple and the big banana, which are probably the two most famous ones, urban sprawl is encroaching on them, but they are in the middle of a plantation somewhere, so to speak.
You look at any capital city, and I live in Sydney, so I just want to talk about Sydney for a second. Yeah. The western suburbs and southwestern suburbs of Sydney now, which is where all our freestanding housing is going. When I was growing up, that was Market Gardens. It was our food bowl.
One of them.
Well, there you go. It was our food bowl. Now that the city's expansion is pushing into the food bowl, that means all of our food production is being pushed into less arable land out west, as it were. And that land, through genetically modified foods, is now able to produce more than what it used to, 50 years ago. So with technology, meaning, less arable land can actually generate enough food, all of these areas around the city are sort of being taken up. Now, when you look at, the big banana up in Coffs Harbour, for example, it's it was in the fringe of the city of Coffs Harbour. Now it's sort of being encapsulated. And Progress will take over that land at some time in the future because it has to.
Yeah, okay. It's a fascinating concept, and I think, it'd be interesting to see how it would actually play out. And I imagine it's not going to be the same everywhere, but certainly food for thought. Steve, great to talk to you this morning.
Thanks, Steve.